So this is the February 4th, 2026 meeting of the West Concord Advisory Committee. And we're going to take attendance. So Barbara Morse,
Here.
Allison Ailey,
Here.
Lindsay Wolf,
Here.
Nicole Hammond,
Here.
and I'm here, Anna Feldweg. So we have enough people. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda, actually, Linda was supposed to take minutes today, but she is not coming. So is there someone else who would volunteer to take minutes? Skip out of order.
I tend to take
Okay.
them anyway, unless you have another volunteer.
Okay. Very good. I can always help you. All right. And we wanted to start with public comment. So does anyone want to say anything before we get started? Okay. Very good. Then we can get started. Oh, anybody? No. Okay. So first up is Megan Zamuto, the Deputy Town Manager, to give us an update on the cell service improvements. So Megan.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here this evening. I'm glad I double checked because I did think it was in person for a little while. So happy to see you all here on Zoom. Hold on just one moment and I will pull up the presentation.
I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, all set.
Okay, thank you. I have about 10,000 windows open. So okay. Can everyone see, can you see the presentation in front of you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. So again, I'm Megan Zamuto. I'm the Deputy Town Manager in Concord. I have worked in Concord, it'll almost be 3 years in April. And one of the areas that I focus on is helping, the select board achieve their goals. And some of their main goals over the past few years has been improving cell service. So, as I mentioned, this has been a multi-year goal for the select board. And the presentation this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about current progress towards the FY26 goal of improving and advancing infrastructure option in West Concord. But I'll also give a little bit of an overview of some of the work that's been going on in the past few years, so people can get a sense of the different projects there are and kind of where they all are in the timeline. So as I mentioned, the goals, the last few years, there's been a lot of focus on improving cell coverage in town. There was an interest a few years ago to look at our wireless communication policies and come up with a plan for how to address the safety and address concerns of improving coverage in town. In FY25, again, it showed up as take action to improve town infrastructure. And then in FY26, there's actually a few goals. And of course, the planning board is taking on a major goal to look at the zoning, which is a critical piece. But different than this goal here is to have a West Concord improvement option underway. So we had a listening session in 2023 in the fall. And if people are interested in doing more of a deep dive than I'm going to give you this evening about kind of why we are here and the history of cell phone coverage in Concord, this is a great resource to take a look at. There's both the video, which you can watch on our town page, and I have it linked at the end. And there's also just the slide deck, which I think is helpful to kind of look at and have a sense of, kind of the areas that how some of the reasons it's been challenging despite a lot of interest in improving coverage. So at this listening session, we really heard feedback from the community, and we heard kind of confirming the same three geographic areas that our technical analysis identifies as Concord primary weak zones. And so those three areas are, of course, Concord Center. I think there's total agreement on that. Second is the Route 2 Concord Carlisle High School area. And then the third area is West Concord. So, I think after that listening session, there really was a shift in kind of a desperate interest to find a solution. And in a lot of communities, cell phone infrastructure they partner with private property owners. So it'd be a church or, kind of all sorts of commercial property or different property that can have this type of infrastructure. And it's really a win-win situation because the community gets better coverage, private property owners benefit from a long-term lease and a steady stream of income. And, ideally that would happen here. And it does in a few locations, but also since, it hasn't solved the problem totally on private property, back in, I think 2023, the select board decided to take a different strategy, and that's to look at properties that we own and control and can take a, kind of a proactive approach to working with carriers to have infrastructure in our municipal property because it's such a critical public safety issue. So now on to the center, just a brief update of what's going on here. This is the umbrella. There has been, a history of requests for proposals to put infrastructure up here in the cupola, which is very tall. I've climbed this very steep ladder to check it out a few times, and it's scary, but it will be a perfect home for some new infrastructure. So that the latest RFP from, I think, last year landed with a successful partnership with Verizon Wireless. And so we are working with them and the umbrella to finalize the construction drawings and then eventually the lease so that they can move forward through permitting. And that will lead to the installation, building permits, zoning board of appeals, and then not in that order. It'd be zoning board first and then building permits. And then they would move forward to be able to install that infrastructure. So that continues to move forward. We also have another project in the center with AT&T. And back in 2022, the select board was looking to see, what else can we do to be proactive about different technology in town. And so they passed a small cell policy to kind of welcome private investment in these small infrastructure on top of the telephone poles. And we don't have as many telephone poles, in the center anymore. We have these two that these will be located on. They're 1 Sudbury and 143 Sudbury. And so this application was approved by the select board back in, I think, June, and they're looking to move forward. Hopefully they're working on all their due diligence, and hopefully that takes place this year. So this effort at the landfill, this is an area that is going to be solving for the Concord Carlisle High School area and Route 2. And this project came to be because there was a 2023 citizens petition. It was explored before then. There's a long history to all these sites. There actually was a cell tower here for a period of time, I think in the 90s. But it came up again when the community overwhelmingly voted at town meeting that this is a good location, that they'd like to see some infrastructure to improve cell coverage. So after we heard that message loud and clear, we put together a request for proposals, and then we executed a lease with Wireless Edge Towers. And they're working on it. They'll be putting in a multi-carrier tower at this landfill. That's more of the traditional cell tower that you think of, I think, when you think cell tower. Like it'll be, have a few different carriers at the top, and it'll be able to service that area. So they are continuing to work on the permitting side. I think one of the latest meetings was in the fall with the community development division or department, and some of the lawyers from the team who are looking through how. So now that those two of the three areas are underway, the focus has been shifting to look at West Concord, which is, of course, what the main reason we're here to talk today. And we do have some carriers in West Concord. We have T-Mobile. There is a T-Mobile. I believe it's a monopole at Baker Ave. Verizon and AT&T are both on Iners Neck Hill. And then all three carriers, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, are at Emerson Hospital. But there still are gaps. And so this image that you're looking at, the brighter green is the coverage and the darker color are the gaps. And this, for kind of orienting, is the train station in the middle. And so, what we have does provide some partial coverage, and I think most people would agree it's not as bad as the center. We are getting, both of our analysis and, hearing from folks at the listening session and other times is that this is an area that is underserved by cell infrastructure, and to add to it would boost the coverage in this area. So in 2024, it feels like just yesterday, but the summer of 24, we asked our radio frequency consultant to look at West Concord and look at some available sites. I did send along that report. Anna, I don't know if it was included in the packet, but it's available if anyone wants to take a look. It looked at a number of different locations, imagining really what the coverage would be at some different heights, at some different locations. That was property that was municipally owned. And the two that came up to the top were both Rideout and Harvey Wheeler. So when we, got that information, we did a site visit and first went to Harvey Wheeler, which is right here. And we went up to that cupola as well. And as you can see here, there is a good amount of space in the cupola. So that was definitely positive. But there were some challenges with the area that could be used for ground mounted equipment. It's a very, it's a tight site. Like eating up the parking would not really be possible with kind of the shared buildings on the site. And, the lot lines are tied up to the building, and it's also in a historic district. So there has to be obviously considerations of, what type of, shed or apparatus could be outside. It has to be considered. So with those things in mind, we, looked over at Rideout Park, and Rideout, there had some factors that made it of more interest. And one of the reasons is because of the technical potential to this site. So this is the flagpole. And there's also these sheds that are right here. And they're like behind over here. And there's access to fiber and electricity, which would be beneficial if there was going to be a installation of equipment, because you won't have to kind of trench through a whole park. Some people, when I've been talking about this, is why can't you put it in like the far back end of the park? And one of the reasons, I mean, you could do anything, right? But if we're trying to solve this problem and have the least amount of impact, part of the reason our consultant right here, Ivan, said this would be a better location because of some of these factors. Oh, and another thing, since there are these two sheds here, one of them has a restroom facility. One of them has, I think, electrical equipment storage or, panels. I'm not exactly sure what is in here. But one thing that could be possible and has been discussed is to do a shed to screen any ground-mounted equipment. And you could also add some additional space that could be storage for recreation or, other things of that nature. So that's the idea, that you could screen some equipment, and there's already some small structures here. Definitely made it interesting. So, I have been asked, what would it look like? And I think the terminology is Definitely a cell tower can conjure something different than kind of what we're talking about here, which would be a monopole. And this is a monopole in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This is their town hall here. Their ground mounted equipment is actually in the building. And, I mentioned that would be challenging for Harvey Wheeler. And it does, we do need to, a partner needs to be able to provide access to a carrier, 24/7. They would need to be able to get in. And so there's, things to consider there. I don't know if they have kind of a storage locker or kind of how that's worked out here, and I can certainly look into it more. But I just, this is one example of one monopole that has one carrier in a municipality for you to take a look at. So in my conversations with community members, the question of the MBTA parking lot came up, and there was just an article on the Bridge about it because I mentioned it at a select board meeting, and it's definitely worth exploring. So our charge from the select board is to move forward a project this year or have something underway. And so to do that, we were looking at properties that we own and control and could move on without a lot of kind of overhead of permissions. And so, in thinking about the MBTA lot, we do own a portion of it over here. This is a drawing from a agreement with the MBTA from the 90s to kind of parcel out the different controls of the different sections and the ownership. So we do own this, but we do have an agreement with the MBTA to use the space. And so this location was not considered in the original radio frequency report from 2024, but I did ask our RF consultant, do you think this would meet some of our coverage needs if there was infrastructure here? And it is within the location, so we can certainly look into it. But I have not. I'm starting to explore the legality and like the land use control of the site. And I'm doing a little more research and working with town council before we, kind of approach the MBTA to understand if this is something that would be possible for them. I know that there are a lot of regulations, to install anything next to an active rail line. I think we were looking at putting some signage out in Junction Park to alert people of a little bit of like a dip in the railroad crossing a few years ago, and it kind of the request went out, and it definitely takes a while. They really take their safety standards seriously, and putting anything within a certain buffer takes further review. So this one is still under consideration, but this has not been presented at some of the other outreach because it's come up in conversation. Okay, on this slide, I preface this by I chose a picture where everyone was smiling at the Recreation Commission. And so this was the meeting that occurred in October. And I went through a presentation similar to this, and I talked through, kind of what we're looking to do, how we're looking to solve this, cell phone coverage problem, and why we're now looking at West Concord as we've made some progress in some other areas in town. And I think I talked a little bit about some of the other outreach that's been done. So there was this presentation I have presented, I think it was in October, November, to the select board to give them an update. Happy to be here today. I think I was invited a few months ago, so I appreciate your patience in inviting me now. And I've been continuing to have additional community conversations, about what's happening. Oh, also I'll plug on, I think the last slide here. Oh, wait a second. So then on this slide here, this is to show, if you're looking at different locations, what are we really looking at? And this is an image that was put together by a carrier when they were looking for locations to locate in Concord a few years ago. I'll say to make a project happen, you need interest from these companies, right? From Verizon or from tower companies, and you need to be really on their list. And then if you do an RFP and you indicate that you're open to proposals, then there's a match. Right now, we're not on anyone's radar for West Concord. So this was from a previous time when they were considering some projects in West Concord. That is not the case today. But when they were looking, I think it was a Verizon. This was the circle. And so, some people have said, what about MCI, which is, right up here? You really want to be as close to the middle of the circle as possible to get the best coverage. So this is the area that they're looking into. Oh, so I just wanted to mention, yes, I have here listed our webpage. This webpage has the link to the 2023 listening session and presentation if people are interested in that. We do have a podcast in town, if you're a podcast listener, called Civic Concord, and it's available on our Minuteman Media YouTube page, as well as Apple, Spotify, and other places. And we did an episode on cell service in town, not specifically West Concord, but kind of walking through some of these projects and some of the history with the light plant director, Jason Bolger. There's a link to the Recreation Commission meeting, a recent select board presentation. Oh, and here's the cell listening session. So hopefully that was an okay overview, but I'm happy to talk through any questions you may have. And I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love to hear all your feedback, basically. Anything that concerns you have, thoughts you have about this location. I appreciate your time and the work that you all do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I have a few questions, but maybe I can open it up to the committee members first. Anyone? Okay, I'll dive in with my questions. First of all, thank you very much. I did go back and review all those different presentations, and I am much better informed than I was, and I didn't know about the podcast, so that's helpful. I guess the one thing that I would say is that the MBTA potential solution seems to get around the issues that people have about really anything aesthetically unpleasing going into the park, which I realized that the cell tower, many of us thought the cell tower was like an 8-foot wide base, and it clearly is not. It's this monopole thing, which looks like a large flagpole, and that's helpful to know. But still, I think people are concerned about really anything going into the park that doesn't need to be there, that looks like, technical things. So would it be possible to explore the MBTA site completely before the RFP goes out? Was my first question. Because I know you're under some time pressure, but I'm not sure how strict it is.
Sure. I think that would be a policy question to the select board. Because at this point, we're working towards the goal of having a solution for West Concord underway in FY26. And, what does that mean exactly underway? I have defined, or, we have defined in the town manager's office is that success looks like getting an RFP out for a location that we own and can potentially, explore a project. I agree that looking into that location is worthwhile, and I think we're trying to do that simultaneously at this point.
Okay, yeah, because if the RFP went out and the best developed place was Ride Out, then probably the companies are going to look at Ride Out, and then we're back to the same set of issues that the community has with not necessarily wanting it there. So it just seems to me like it would be worthwhile sorting out before. Yeah.
I wonder if there is more on kind of what the concerns are about having infrastructure at Ride Out. Like if that could be articulated by you or others in the group, the more specific, the better, just so I can kind of take note of that. And the more I understand about the concerns, the better I think we can be, kind of partners in finding solutions to solve a major community problem, on property that is possible. So yeah, I would love to hear more about, based on what we have so far, what are the kind of the major issues?
Well, I'll take I'll take a stab at it. I'm guessing that a big issue is what is this tower actually going to look like? So you've answered that, which is great. Will it have a whole bunch of equipment hanging off it, or will it simply be the pole that you showed?
Mhm.
And then how big would the shed that needs to be created need to be? Would be my other question.
Mhm.
And then I'll take public comment in a minute.
Can I add, Anna, can I ask, to just, you showed the monopole. I know that we initially did see specs that had an 8-foot, kind of thing. Is the inclusion of the monopole, I thought a monopole had one server on it, and you're talking about something that needs 3. So, no?
No, I'm talking about a monopole that would be one carrier.
It would be one carrier, because I thought you said you needed all 3 to, when you were talking about who's got service where, that the solution you were looking for was going to be for
Oh.
all 3 on one.
No, I think what I was saying that there's 3 locations in town with less than ideal coverage. So the center, the Route 2, Concord Carlisle High School area, and West Concord. And I was describing some of the existing infrastructure that exists. There are carriers at Emerson and Baker
And
Ave
Baker
and
Ave.
Nares Neck, but there is still a gap. So we were looking to have a monopole because it would be, just the one is what the proposal is. Yeah.
So I'm interested. I haven't looked at all your supporting things, but I live in West Concord, and everyone I've talked to seems to have good coverage, and so I'm just wondering if you only need one carrier, not all 3, like is and most people say they've got good coverage already. I'm just wondering where the gap is between that, because it seems like the town's trying to solve a problem that most of us aren't aware of having, and we live here and have cell coverage. So it's
Yeah, that's helpful feedback. I don't think the reason we're looking for a one carrier solution is because we wouldn't know what carrier we would get. It's like just overall there is a weakness in the radio frequency in the area, based on our analysis. But I understand the lived experience of you and others don't feel that every day. So that's helpful to know.
is that new? Have you not heard that before?
I have heard it from some people, but I also have heard that there are issues, and there's also, in the business district, there are issues there as well. I mean, I think like compared to Concord Center, it's not nearly as prominent, but we have seen that it is one of the 3 weak areas in town. So we're trying to work to improve the infrastructure for the connectivity, of residents and visitors.
Okay.
Yeah, and the map that you showed of the coverage with the green and the dark areas, it looked like to me like the darkest areas, one was where Concord Park, that wooded area is, and the other was sort of all around the river, which strikes me as appropriately dark. And then there was just a little area in the business district that seemed dark. So I'm sort of thinking what Allison's thinking, like maybe it's very confined.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
there's a gap in the business area, in the business district.
Yeah. So does anyone else on the committee have anything they wanted to say? Because otherwise we can open it up to public comment because we've got 4 different hands. I don't see anything. Okay, let's do public comment. Please try to limit it to about 2 minutes each. Okay. And I think Vicky Alani, you were first.
Vicky, you're muted.
Can you unmute, Vicky?
I thought I did. Sorry. Vicky
you
Alani,
are.
Commonwealth Avenue. I was quietly to myself, I guess, thanking Megan for coming and doing a very thorough presentation. Really appreciate it. And you asked the question about what some of the concerns are. And I would say, for a small but very, very well loved and well used park and playground, the concern is just taking up more space out of very little recreational area that we have in this West Concord Center for the children. And so having, even more eaten up by this, which, it just seems like if there is another solution, we should drive it hard. And, as Anna pointed out, one of the areas of concern is closer to the businesses. And frankly, walking through that parking lot behind the train station that is more than 3/4 empty on any given day since COVID, it seems like all of that asphalt is where we should be looking, not park space. And so what would it take for us to take a little bit of asphalt out of that enormous parking lot that's unused? Seems to me like a win-win for everybody. And it's closer to the business district where you're saying most of the problems in coverage are. So I would say to you, that's the concern some of us have, and probably a better solution. And I agree with Anna that this should be part of the RFP. Like, it would be better if there was an alternative put into the RFP and a bid requested from the bidders to put a cell monopole in that parking lot before they bid on a location that we can't continue with. We have a history here of putting out RFPs that we renege on, and let's just put out an RFP that we can move forward on. Would be so much better. We have 11 months left in this year for success to get an RFP, maybe even a bid and an award in 2026, and whatever we can do to help with that. Happy to jump in.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Cynthia Katz.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for this presentation. I am noting that I agree with what Vicky said and the previous, oh gosh, sorry, what Allison said about, we around West Concord and around Rideout don't seem to have a problem. So I wonder about that, the lived experience. You did a listening session in 2023. I haven't listened to the tape, but I wonder, I wonder whether it's important to do a survey and find out real world situations. Also, West Concord is a big, wide, broad place, whereas Concord Center that you mentioned as problematic is defined. We know what that is. The Route 2 area near CCHS is defined. I mean, I can think of places in West Concord that really have a problem, like out by Madison Field and out at 9 Acre Corner. But in the center, in West Concord Village, we don't have a problem, and we don't want Rideout Park to become a site, even with the kind of pole that you showed in Plymouth, which is very different than what you were talking about before, with 85 feet high and 8 feet in diameter. That's going to require a fence around it. We really don't want or need that in the village. So we have Giroux land is a town owned area that is closer to the village. Obviously, as Vicky just said, a lot of asphalt there behind the MBTA. But I think that to really find out where the problems are in West Concord and not just say West Concord, we got to do something in West Concord, would be really important and would help West Concord residents and the town feel confident in how you're going about this. So, so can I just clarify? The monopole would be how high?
We do not have any information on what a project would look like at this point. And it's because we don't have a vendor who has shown interest or has invested any funds in designing a project. So I don't know exactly what image a few of you have mentioned that you saw before. And I'm wary to show any images because it's so it hasn't been designed. It's so conceptual right
Well,
now.
the 85 feet and 8 feet in diameter dimensions were in an article in the Bridge and actually were kind of told to us, right? That's what was being looked at. So maybe to get the actual dimensions of that Plymouth pole. But currently, right now, there's only a 30-foot flagpole in a historic, not just our town park, but it's a kind of a historic park. It's where we have our Memorial Day services started, um, in Concord, in West Concord. So anyway.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
would also like to say that I've heard the quote by a member of the select board that any any s- any cell project, any cell tower project is a good one, and I would say that's not the case if you are considering ride out. That would not be a good one for West Concord.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Next, I have Cosette Dunn.
Hi there, Cosette Dunn, 131 Ministerial Drive in Concord. Thanks a lot, Megan, for your presentation. I'm a little clearer now with everything that's going to go on there and go up. But I just want to say that I agree with Cynthia that in terms of where are the problems in West Concord, because that would that kind of help you determine where the best site would be. And I like the Harvey Wheeler site because it's higher. And I think being taller, wouldn't that make sense? It's going to reach more people or whatever. I know that a couple of years ago, when my sister and brother-in-law had just moved into town, they're up on Deacon Hayes, and she had a bout of COVID, and to the point we had to call an ambulance, and the cell phones did not work. Thank goodness we're old because the landline did. So cell phone service and service in general is kind of spotty, but we are much better than the town center. So I think continuing with some of those explorations, and I appreciate after working at Junction Park for so long, Megan, I understand the hesitancy with the town trying to get anything out of the MBTA railroad. That that takes a long time, but that's just my opinion. I think the town has run into that for a lot of things. It would be great if we could get it there because that would probably be good. And I know that the businesses in West Concord do have a hard time being on part of the plant sale for Green Thumbs. Not everybody's phone works in the little green we started to hold it in along Palm Ave. So West Concord does have somewhat of a problem, and particularly further out, but I don't think the playground is going to solve that because I never have a hard time around there, and I'm there daily, just about. So I think we have to continue to explore, but that's just my 2 cents, and thanks for all your work, all of you.
Thank you. Dan Stapleton.
Hi, how are you? Just give me 1 minute here, turn my video on. Hi, thank you very much for that presentation. Just a quick question. I do have a comment, but just a quick question. Is that going to be available so we can get those hyperlinks at the end? Is that like posted somewhere?
Oh, I shared it with the committee, but
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you have it on your webpage with packet
I
materials.
think we do. We can make sure we do.
I'm happy to send it to you, Dan, as well.
Or yeah, I mean, I can go grab it off there. It's just I wanted to get those hyperlinks to see it. So yeah, good presentation, Megan, and don't want to sound like we're ganging up on you here. So I appreciate what you're doing, and it's not an easy task. But you did ask for some feedback. So one of the concerns that I have about the ride out location, and you could say I might have this concern anywhere, but I have it in particular ride out due to its visibility, is you have about 50 to 60 houses there, and I'm using, some of them are in direct line of sight, and some of them are sort of within that 1,500-foot boundary. That there's a reasonable expectation our property value is going to go down by the presence of that. And so having been one of those property owners within that area, obviously it's a concern. And it's not a sort of subjective opinion on my part. It's pretty much a consideration, a due diligence studies that towns look at to evaluate different alternative sites. And I think so that's on the concern end. And certainly because of that concern, I would encourage a really robust sort of alternatives analysis to look at other sites. So given that concern, I just, wonder about the sort of due diligence studies that the town, would be compelled to do to make that decision. And the one study that's been done, that IDK study, that's a RF propagation model analysis, and that's a very approximate thing, and it's only sort of the first step in doing a gap analysis. And I think Concord Center was pretty clear where the gaps are, but it's much less clear. And I'm kind of putting that position out by looking at a number of different heat maps and certainly carrier maps. So I think really understanding where the gaps are and not doing it in an anecdotal way would be very valuable. If there were no adverse impacts out there, it wouldn't really be a big deal. But I think there are actual adverse impacts here, and so people should, if that decision is going to be made, people should feel comfortable with the basis for it. My last comment, which I kind of didn't understand until, and I guess I still don't understand it tonight, is that we have 3 primary carriers, and the other antennas support all 3 carriers. And the coverage is very different by carrier within West Concord. So if you're like, I'm a Verizon user, and I have excellent coverage, even in the spots that you showed as gray. So I just trying to understand the logic of having a single carrier, which seems contrary to the fact that we have 3 major carriers, each with slightly different, well, not slightly, each with different coverage. And I'm assuming this is all going to support 5G, right? At least mid and low range 5G service. That's I guess a question too.
Okay.
All right, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I respond to one question about the carriers?
Sure.
I think that there are 3 carriers in Concord, and I don't think that one is kind of the total solution for everyone. But it would improve the baseline coverage, because right now there are, kind of black gaps where there is not coverage. So ideally people would be able to, have like a baseline general coverage. I think like for the center, we are looking to put one carrier in the umbrella, and then another carrier is going to do the small cell. So it is kind of a multi-pronged effort. And if there were, if there were to be one project at as a monopole in West Concord, wherever it is, maybe that would improve that carrier, but we might find that there might be additional gaps, and there might need to be another project down the line. I don't think there's appetite for putting a major tower with the large infrastructure in West Concord Center. So that's why we're looking to do a less intrusive, but kind of start chipping away at the problem. But all these points have been very valuable so far. So sorry to interrupt, but keep them coming. Thank you.
I just meant to say too in the beginning, this is Dan Stapleton from 20 Conant Street.
Yes, thank you. Sumi Fasolo.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have only lived here a couple years, so it's great to see all the good work that's being done. Um, and as a newer person to the community, we live at 28 Conant Street, so we actually, even though we're not right on the park, we actually have a direct view of the flagpole from our kitchen window. So we do care very much about, um, what this monopole looks like. Um, the park is the major civic space of West Concord. It's also, obviously part of the broader community. We see all the sports games that are going on there. And to put, a monumental structure into the park is, just the thought of it is, it's a bigger thing than, that it's a challenging thing. And I think it also, it could set a precedent also for other parks in Concord, that if this sort of utility, large infrastructure is going into a park and ride out park, is that then going to set a precedent for all the other parks in Concord? But I think ultimately we really need to know what that structure is going to look like. I too have heard that it could potentially be as 85 feet tall. 85 feet is, the height of some of the tallest steeples in Concord, the church steeples. But those are, structures that are the character of Concord, and so I think, we really need to know what it looks like. And also, if possible, getting an estimate of the size of it. I mean, it's not it's been done before, so I would hope that and think that some of the vendors out there would be willing to offer, an estimate, a ballpark, in order for us to better understand what the physical impact is on Rideout Park and the community. And I guess I have a question about, and I know you were touching on this a little bit earlier, but there are so many light poles in the village. There are also a bunch scattered, they're along Conant Street, they're on Losbrook Road, they're in the park. Um, has the small cell approach been fully vetted? To me, it's, I know a lot of other communities have design standards that actually require that, all the cell infrastructure is integrated into the built environment. And so I'm wondering, is that still on the table? And, I think it would be a more holistic approach to, putting in, infrastructure that, is necessary.
Thank you. Megan, do you want to address that? Because I actually had that same question about whether or not it could all be done with small cell.
I probably can't fully answer that today, but I will say that the town is open to small cell, and if we are approached by carriers that are interested in doing those projects, it have to make sense for them, and have, kind of work in the market. And that's how the AT&T one came to us. The select board had signed this kind of policy in inviting a process and saying we're kind of open for business. And then, a few years later, we got the application. And so that certainly is still a possibility. Is that, a path that could solve the total coverage gap? I don't feel qualified to say that today, but I think that's, a good point and worth further exploration.
Next, I have on my list, Mark Boasberg.
Oh, Mark, I think you're muted.
Yes, I was muted. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I was wondering if other locations had been looked into. For instance, you had mentioned that the Lawsbrook end of Rideout was under consideration because there was fiber and electricity. But there is at the back end of Rideout, also at the end of Bradford Street. I don't know if that's been looked at, but not only on parkland, but there is a private parking lot there that is basically empty. And I'm sure the owner wouldn't mind getting some revenue from a cell tower being there. So that's one possibility. Other possibilities are the schools, Sanborn, Peabody, Thoreau. Um, those are all town properties with lots of property and plenty of power and fiber. So if they haven't been looked at, I would recommend looking at those. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Ruth B. You're muted, Ruth.
Thank you. Sorry. Ruth Bryan, 21 Conant, and my husband and I actually abut Rideout Park. Most of them have already been stated. But I especially wanted to encourage the idea of that survey. If there's 3 carriers in West Concord, I think it'd be helpful to find out who has what carrier and what the condition of their cell service is. For example, the cell service at our house is excellent, but I work for the Army Corps of Engineers on Virginia Road in Concord at the other end, and we have almost cell service. We have a guest Wi-Fi, and no one at work even uses it because you get on and a minute later you're kicked off, like all day, literally. I can't send a text with an emoji in it. Makes it. So I just think really exploring where are the true deficits in cell service could be useful, because I think from what we've all described, it's a big impact to have this in the park. And even though it isn't, I can appreciate that you're not planning some huge, structure that would support 3 carriers. As you said, I believe, Megan, is you don't really know what it would look like. So that's a big concern. The property value is a concern. I'm sure everybody has that when they're nearby, but that's a concern. One other thing that has not been mentioned, and I know this is not a problem for everyone, but I'm one of those people who has a sensitivity to various types of frequencies. There is that concern that some people are sensitive to radio frequencies and could potentially be impacted if this tower is really close to houses. So there's just a lot of concern. I will agree that, Rideout Park is central to the character of West Concord. We have the concerts in the park, but there's also historical aspects, as Cynthia Katz had pointed out. We have the Minutemen there, we have the cannons go off, and anything we can do to protect that small town, more historic feel of that park, I think is really important. It's not a really big park, so I don't think it takes much to impact the character of it because of the small size. And I really do think it has quite a nice feel to it, and that, more than just bring the park enjoy. And so I think that would be a potentially big impact to the park. So I think it's really important to find out where the deficits are, and if there's any other solutions, such as these small cell solutions that could be less impactful, but still help with cell coverage. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go a little bit out of order just to make sure that everybody's had a chance, and then I'll loop back to people who've already spoken. So Betsy Eltonhead.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Betsy Eltonhead. I'm at 33 Conant Street. We abut the park also, and we're right across the fence from the playground. We've been here for 35 years, and the park has really turned into this jewel of a park in terms of how the community uses it and how lovely it is. I agree with many other people saying don't put anything more in it, that it's too small for anything else to go in there. I'm also worried, so the aesthetics I'm worried about. I'm also worried about the property value aspect of it in terms of decreasing our property value. I would really strongly encourage the town look aggressively at other sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Shoemaker. Or Schumacher.
I'm just fresh from a school committee meeting. I live on 25 Highland Street, and I've lived in Concord that's in West Concord. And I've lived here for 30 years. And I always am a little surprised that when there's something that's not beautiful, it's always put in West Concord. Okay, so I'm being boo-hoo, but I have two brothers that live in Concord Center, and they have terrible reception. I mean, I'm always getting cut off with them. I've never had a problem here in West Concord. So why? Why Ride Out Playground? Why not? I heard Trinitarian Church was talking about putting something there. What about Crosby's, behind Crosby's parking lot? Well, I don't get it. Maybe I missed something. Can you clarify something for me?
Well, I think this last piece is just West Concord because they've already have solutions for Concord Center and the area around the school. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a problem here in West Concord?
Well, that's one of the things that people have brought up prior to when you spoke is maybe we don't have as much of a problem as we think we do.
I'm sorry, I did come in late. So
Yeah.
Where is the problem in West Concord? Can someone speak to?
In the business district is the primary problem.
Oh, in the center of West Concord?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, thank
But
you. Let me, no, not right out itself.
Yep.
Let me give Ann Sarzi, sorry if I said your name wrong, a chance.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Ann Scarzy, I live on Maple Street. I was wondering, Megan, thank you for all the information. We've talked a little bit, and we saw the picture of the Plymouth flagpole, but you mentioned that Harvey Wheeler was not an option because there was no room for the ground installed equipment that would be required. Do you have any idea? Can you give us any sense of the footprint or the height or the density of the ground installed equipment? I think you were suggesting maybe a building would be built around it, but what's the footprint of that? How much more green space would be taken up by the ground installed equipment?
Sure. Yeah, just to clarify, I wouldn't say that Harvey Wheeler is not an option. I think out of the sites that we evaluated and looking at criteria for, site control, ability to have the least amount of disturbance, and have a project move forward, on a tighter or faster schedule, right out of the ones we looked at came to the top. And Harvey Wheeler also showed that it could have the same amount of benefit, coverage wise, and just had a few kind of, if you're looking at a matrix, like a few dings as to kind of the location. I don't have the square footage exactly for what the ground mounted equipment is, but I could get an estimate and share that for amount of square footage. So I think I probably did know that at one point, and it's just I don't have it in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding that nothing has been designed, so it is kind of walking the dance of an estimate at this point. But yeah, I will flag that to get a sense of what the square footage would be. And when I said a structure, it would be a shed is what we're talking about. It would be equipment that would be screened by a shed. And there'd be an opportunity to, you could replace the storage shed that exists and just add on a little bit to make sure there was storage there. But that was the concept that has been proposed.
Okay. Because I think it's not just the pole. Everyone's focused on the pole, and obviously the pole is a really big deal, but also the accompanying equipment. It all together takes up more space and, becomes an obstacle for people running or balls or, whatever it is. But we want to preserve every inch of green space at Ride Out as we possibly can, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jean Easterday, and then we have two that are going to have a chance to say something again. So Jean, go ahead.
Great. Thank you again, Megan, for all your work on this. Um, I, I'm hearing from you that there's a big sense of urgency around getting the RFP out and getting things going. And when I look at the article, like Mark Howell said, he's still interested in the MBTA opportunity and that Concord should continue reviewing their options. So it feels to me a little bit like we're racing towards this Emerson thing because we need to get the RFP out, but we really haven't articulated the need 100%. And there are other sites that people seem to find, more palatable. So I'm just curious, why the sense of urgency? Why so quick? And then I did have another question about the MBTA. So I don't know if you want to answer that one or.
Sure. No, I think the feedback I'm hearing today, I genuinely appreciate, and towards the end here, if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of highlight the things that I'm hearing as preferences and experience from this group today, because I think the public input shapes projects here. So this is very valuable, no doubt. Urgency. So there is an FY26 goal to have a project moving in West Concord to solve this coverage gap. And so FY26 ends in June. I did meet with the select board in November. I shared with them there was a similar presentation, and at that time they were comfortable with pursuing Bride Out. So that is how I am operating at this point. But I'm learning more. We are exploring the MBTA site, and I think this. Ideally, we would find a solution that would work for everyone, no doubt. So we will continue to explore the MBTA site. I mean, I think when we look at the landfill, the community really got behind that, and that is not resulting in better service yet because it hasn't been built yet. But that is preferable if folks are on board. But I do know that consensus is not always totally possible. And when we're talking about property value concerns and health concerns, it's like those are infrastructure concerns, and those will be concerns wherever it goes. And so that is a factor to think about. But there are other, really helpful specific pieces of feedback that, I am taking to heart and considering.
Great. And then just one quick follow-up. The MBTA, like I've read articles on the MBTA, they were looking at a project plan to put cell towers at every stop along the way because they don't want and they don't want any coverage gaps, right? So I would think that if you get the right person at the MBTA, they would be more than willing to work with us. And so I'm just curious, can we help? What are your next steps for the MBTA? Because I think a lot of people here do not want to see the tower at Rideout. Or the monopole at Rideout. So, what are the next steps? Can we help? Is there anything we could do petition-wise or as a community?
I appreciate that, and I'll have to get back to you on that. I will say I did see that there was an effort in 2017, I think, especially on the North Shore, to consider infrastructure along the rail, but that didn't move forward. There were citizen concerns in multiple communities on the North Shore, and so that project was abandoned. And so I don't know, that's just some of the research that I found too. And so when there is a place to plug in, I will certainly let this group know.
Okay, Allison, back to you and then back to Cynthia.
Thanks. Oops. I was just wondering, Megan, this didn't occur to me till after I'd spoken. The timeline of how the town came to the decision that they were only going to pursue town-owned property for sites seemed to be when the focus was on Concord Center and the problems that they had finding private property owners that might comply. So I don't know if it would be different in West Concord, but it's a different makeup of private property owners in the business district and stuff. And people mentioned the large parking lot at the end of Bradford Mill things, and So I'm just wondering if the town had abandoned talking to private property places before West Concord became, you know, a consideration that they were focusing on. And if so, it might be worthwhile to go back to that and just talk to some of the private property folks in West Concord.
Thank you for that. I think maybe I didn't communicate this clearly, and I appreciate the questions to have the opportunity to clarify. So, the approach to shift to work on municipal property is a proactive approach to partner with carriers to put infrastructure on property. But we have not abandoned private property and working with carriers at all. And we would prefer that. I would be happy. I would be so happy if there was a private property owner that went through the process, got the revenue, and improved coverage, you know, across the community. That wasn't happening. And so when at this listening session in 2023, when we had emergency room doctors, parents of children, you know, sharing their major public safety concerns, we had to take a different approach to, I mean, that approach had been going on for a little while before with looking at the umbrella and some other sites. But we had to say, you know, at this point, we can't wait for a private property to, you know, negotiate with a carrier. We have to see what parcels of land we control to try to work on a partnership. But if there was and you know, I have been kind of coordinating, doing introductory emails and conversations with private property owners and the carriers, you know, that and with through our consultant, that can continue. That certainly, you know, that certainly can. That would be fine.
Okay, so Cynthia, you'll go last, and then we'll give Megan a chance to summarize if you want to, Megan. Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks. I have three things that one is a question or two are questions. The first is I agree with Jean about the urgency. March is not far away versus doing your due diligence. You've had one listening session in 2023. I would imagine, though I haven't listened to it, that a lot of it was around Concord Center and the problems with Concord Center. I never saw a survey of that would seem to be like really important to find out where the real problems are from people's lived experiences. And there are a lot of other ways to measure coverage besides the IDK survey or report that you showed, because the report doesn't jive with what our experience is for cell phone coverage. The reason people got behind the landfill was because nobody lives near there. That was an easy one. It's a no-brainer. No one lives near there. And then my last question is, I'd like to know what the revenue the town is getting from the umbrella proposal and the small cell towers that are the small cells that are going to go in along Sudbury Road.
I'll follow up with you on that, Cynthia. I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Okay. So yeah, I really want to drive home that what Jean said about urgency versus due diligence is really important. Thank you.
Anna, could I just ask one other really quick question? Sorry.
Sure, sure.
If you drive down to Crosby Corners, the mobile station there is a flagpole with a fenced-in thing for the equipment for the monopole there. I'm curious, that's what I envision when I think of what you are proposing to put at Rideout. So I'm wondering if folks on this call could take a look, or Megan, if you're familiar with that. I called the light plant today to ask how tall it was, and they couldn't tell me. I tried ChatGPT, I just couldn't get it in the time frame, and I didn't want to put you on the spot to ask you for it. But if I think that's what we're talking about, and if it is, it's just much larger than what we have at Rideout today. So I just wanted to put that in as an example versus Plymouth. um, for people to take a look at to get an idea of what the experience would be or what it would look like. Thank you.
Okay. So Megan, do you want to summarize?
Yeah, if
Or-
you don't mind, and yeah, so
No, this is important.
high level, kind of what I'm hearing, concerns about the function to the park with added infrastructure, concerns about aesthetic impact to the park with added infrastructure. Hearing that it'd be helpful to have more clearly defined understanding of the gaps in coverage through either further study or, additional community conversation. Hearing a preference to use surfaces that, other than surfaces that are used for community gathering for infrastructure. Interest in less impactful solutions like small cell in the district. And I also heard feedback about property value concerns and health radio frequency impacts. Just as like the buckets of concerns.
Yeah, and maybe just adding the timing of the RFP and making sure that we've checked all the options before the RFP goes out if possible. Rather than after. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone's thoughtful comments. I really appreciate this conversation, and I appreciate the work that you all do, and I also love West Concord. So thank you.
And thank you, Megan. You did a really good job. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So on to slightly lighter things. So the next thing on our agenda is just an update. And actually, I think this is the only time that we've talked about this. The plan to add wayfaring signage along Bruce Freeman Rail Trail on the portions that go through our town. And this is something that Mimi Grainer has been working on, but she wasn't able to be here tonight. So she walked me through her slides, and I'm going to do my best to present it for her. And then any questions that come up that I don't know the answer to, which will probably be most of them, she will get back to us after watching the video. So I'm going to share my screen. Can people see that? I can't hear
not
you.
yet.
Not yet. Okay, wait a minute then. How about now?
It looks, there we go.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is the wayfaring signage for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And what we are talking about here, hold on a second. Page down, that's not working. Oops, there we go. Okay. So the funding for this project has already been obtained by Mimi. It was about $30,000, and half of it came from CPA funds, and the other half came from the Friends of Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. The project for the signage, she had to choose from signage that was already approved for use along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to make sure that all the towns have a consistent style. And she is under some time pressure only because the CPA money was given a few years back, and the CPA would like to see it used or returned. So she would like to get this done. So she's at near the end of this project. Oh my. There we go. So in total, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is about a 25-mile trail that goes through multiple towns. The portion that goes through West Concord is 3.75 miles. As you all know, if you've been out there, it's multi-use, ADA accessible, and there are no cars supposed to be on it. And it is both for transportation and recreation. And here, and the purple line shows the 3.75 portion that goes through West Concord. The signage that we have available to us is this sort of suite of signs, and she is planning on using two different types of signs, which are shown in the darker colors. She picked these out because they were within budget, and also because the big one in the center is very big, and we already have several kiosks along the rail trail, so this wasn't really felt to be needed. So, so she's planning on having 3 directory signs, and those are the ones shown here on the left. And then 5 of the just the wayfaring signs. So these directory signs, she was thinking of having 3 of them, one at Giroux Park, one near Neshoba Brook, where the bridge is, and that's sort of the business district. And then one further out near the old rifle range to point out some of the things out there. These signs are, you can change them out every couple of years. They're designed to be changeable. And they have pictures of all the different things that are available that you can describe. And then there's a map in the center, as you can see there. Acton has these up already. And Acton has used paper inserts, and they got water damaged and wrinkled. So Mimi's planning on using like corrugated plastic that's much more resilient for the inside piece. So the first one at Giroux would have a map. It would, these are the amenities she was planning on putting on the sign: restrooms, vehicle charging, bike share, and bike repair. But the recreation division would help her, put in more over time. And if things were developed there more, we could change that out within a couple of years. She wanted to mention in that sign that MCI redevelopment was planned to just get people to start to know about it and be excited about it. So that's the first major sign. The second one at Neshoba Brook is focused on the business district. So she would have the different businesses on the sides, and the amenities pointed out there would be ride out. She originally planned for the boat launch, and this was the boat launch that's sort of tucked behind the assisted living, which I'm not sure is going to work. And we talked a little bit about that. She wasn't thinking of the Commonwealth Avenue boat launch for Warner's Pond, because with the one exception of ride out, everything on these signs is within a stone's throw of where you're standing. So they're like literally things that people can see. Nicole, yes. I think you're muted.
Is there a way to incorporate other aspects of West Concord in these signs? I know you guys must be so sick of me talking about this, but like the West Concord Cultural Junction wants to put up a lot of signs themselves where their art is and art walks. So I just feel like if we have a lot of competing signs without it being within one.
Well, I think this is exactly why she wanted to present it, so that we could find out what things needed to be still considered. So
the green space that you guys we have talked about in the past also.
So the green spaces, Giroux Park did get on there. Pond has not. And it's for the reason that she had so many things that she wanted to put on that she decided to just have things that are very close, with the exception of Ride Out, because she thought Ride Out is just kind of something that a lot of people going along the trail would want to go have lunch at the park. And, like it's a big feature. So if you have things that you think belong on the signs that she hasn't thought about, then send them to me in an email and I will send them to her. Okay. Can I keep going? All right. Okay. The third one is the old rifle range. Now this one, originally she was thinking that it would point out the old rifle range trails. But as it turns out, there was pushback against that because people would have to cross the road to get to old rifle range trails. So the NRC didn't favor that. So instead, they were going to just put the different features that actually I can't quite see where. Hold on a second. She was going to use that to talk about, in general, getting to West Concord Village, getting to Acton, and how this particular trail intersects with the other trails, Mass Central Rail Trail, and like a bigger picture sign. Jenny Dugan area might someday be featured on that as well if it gets a little more developed, or the trails do. And then the other signs were these 5 pole and arrow signs, which just have a few words on each arm of them. And these were scattered, sort of interspersed along the trail, as you can see here. The top one at the town line, then one at Junction Park, one at our Old Marlborough Road, one pointing to the Garrison Building, and the last one at Powder Mill Road. And she has tried to point out all the major things that she thought people traveling along the trail would wonder where they were. So, they're just like 2 miles to this, 1 mile to that. And I'm sorry, I don't know more details, but if you have concerns, she can address them. And then these next slides have the details of what would be on each of those signs, which I feel like is a little bit much to go into tonight, but I can send it around to the group if they want to look at it. Would that be acceptable? I feel like it's too much detail and we can't really wrap our heads around it easily in this format.
Sure, send it around.
Okay. And then this is just showing the existing signs in yellow and how these red signs would fit in, which is sort of to Nicole's point of the fact that we don't want there to be too many signs. It could be too much, but right now I think there aren't enough signs because you really don't know what you're walking or biking past if you're not from around here. And this is the breakdown of the cost of them. So nothing is cheap. And this is the timeline that she's working with. So she has been getting input on sign locations gradually throughout the year. We're now at February 26th, and she's wanting to try to wrap up what's on the signs. And then in March, she'll be seeking quotes. And in April, she'll actually get started and install in June. So if people want to look at these and weigh in, I would say don't delay. So I'll stop sharing and see if anyone has any comments or questions.
Will you send us these slides, please, if we haven't received them already? I don't think we have.
Yes, I definitely will.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any comments. Am I missing anything? No?
Anna, I just had one, and it may or may not be relevant, but it seems like she chose the locations for the big signs, particularly the one by the rifle range, because she had a vision of directing people to the rifle range and the trails and things. And then it sounds like the NRC nixed that because they don't want people being directed to cross the road to access the rifle range. And I'm just wondering um, if there's a better place to put a big sign, if you know.
Yeah, I mean, that sign then became sort of what's on this half of the trail. And what's on that half of the trail is White Pond, which already has a sign. There is no sign anywhere sort of talking about how this trail connects to the other trails. So I do think that's an important thing to have somewhere. But I think there was no real reason to have the sign there versus somewhere else in that second half of the lower half of the trail, except that the place that she had it planned, there is sort of an open space. It's across the rifle range, there's that intersection.
Right.
And there's space there for people to kind of stop with their bikes. They would probably be stopped anyway because they have to cross the roads there. So I think she was just thinking it's as obvious a place as any to sort of talk about the lower half of the trail. Cosette? Oh, yes. Let's take public comment, Cosette.
Okay. I prefer not to be in the rifle range. I walk there also a lot. It's, anyway, it's right at our back property. Although we wouldn't see anything, but I walk there frequently, and I have not really enjoyed having bicycles, and they are going on that trail. We have people in the neighborhood who go on it as well. It's killing the trails. I understand everything Delia has to say about that. They're running over my lady slippers, but they've always been walking trails. We moved in 1989, and they've always been walking trails, and people can go there with their dogs. People can go there with their kids. I don't know if the middle school still does. They had field trips out there. There's just a lot going on there. So I think having a big map pointing out the rifle range to bicyclists. I don't know.
So you're suggesting it be somewhere else away from the rifle range and really not focus on that at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's just my selfish opinion, I guess.
Okay. Well, that's what we're
and
here to gather.
It's been unsafe. I've had bicyclists come up behind me and say, "Coming through." I mean, there really have been, off kind of into the woods because they were coming down an area that was really steep, and they were going to have a hard time stopping too. And people want to have fun. I get it, and they want a place to be able to ride on trails, but I would rather not be on the rifle range.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Elizabeth?
So I'd like to clarify a little bit more context that it's not the NRC and not having bikes at the rifle range. That location from a safety perspective to having people cross the road needs to be vetted with engineering and the community safety officer, because you would need to have a crosswalk. And I don't think that that has been looked into, whether that is even feasible given the site distances and requirements that need to be put in for a crosswalk. So it is a safety issue. It's not, I just want to clarify, it's not just the NRC doesn't want bikes at the rifle range. So yeah.
Okay. No, that is helpful. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I think the next item on our agenda was a quick update from Elizabeth about what we heard about last time, which is 166 Commonwealth Avenue development.
What the update is I can give you is that they have filed their formal application with the Board of Appeals and the Planning Board this past Monday. So the schedule at this point in time, we're still working out the schedule. The application gets sent to town staff for their review. And second.
And I know that they presented to the NRC, so they got that done as well.
They started the process with the NRC, yes. Trying to find.
Margaret, do you want to make a quick comment while Elizabeth's looking for something?
Yes, is just to clarify, is this let's see, is it like near Neshoba Bakery? Is that the green space that's in?
Well, this
No,
is the development of the gas station that's
Oh, the
not.
E&S building.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't, yeah. I didn't
If you
go
look
to-
at our last meeting, there's a nice presentation.
Okay. Is it going to be small business type of thing, or is it going to be housing?
It's
No,
gonna be
they
a
are
gas-
redeveloping the gas station. It will be a gas station and a general store.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the application will be posted on the Board of Appeals website. It has not been posted yet, so hopefully all the material will be posted probably by tomorrow. But looking at the calendar, because of town meeting and all of the public hearings, I think they will be making an initial just opening presentation to the planning board tentatively at the planning board's meeting on February 24th. It'll just be them presenting it. People can ask questions. And then coming to the West Concord Advisory Committee meeting for your March 4th. So they can go over the changes they made in response to their presentation last month to WCAG. And then this committee would submit a recommendation to the planning board. The planning board would then, it would be on their agenda again for tentatively March 16th. And then possibly the 24th of March for them to finalize their recommendation to go to the Board of Appeals for their meeting on February 26th. That's the tentative schedule at this point.
Okay, thank you. And then I think we are going to run out of time. So we usually try to end around 9. So let's approve our minutes that we have. And then we will see if anyone from the public has anything else they want to say, and we'll wrap up. So did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes from January? Yes. Okay. Does someone want to move to approve them? Nicole, okay. Does someone want to second that?
I can second them. I
Okay.
did make one small change since you guys got them. I think I sent it around again. Anna and Allison had a slight change on how there was a discussion about keeping the same or adding the same light poles that already exist in West Concord. So I did add that in.
So let's vote on whether to approve the minutes. Lindsay?
Yep. Yes, approved.
Approve. And Barbara?
Yes.
And Allison?
Yes.
And I think we got everybody, right? And me. Okay.
I approve.
Oh, sorry, Nicole. Yes, thank you. All right. So any final public comments? Paul?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I just want to say I think the Megan's presentation and the discussion was a very rich and substantive discussion. There, as she said, that have no final decisions been made, and at least two members of the select board were on this call, and we were listening. And I'm sure we'll have further discussions, but I think all options have not been exhausted. But I think this feedback was really excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I had one thing I wanted to ask. I don't think actually Heather is here, but we do have 3 months of approved notes that we just need to minutes that we need to get posted. So I'll follow up with Heather. Okay, so I believe that we are ready to adjourn. Unless I see any hands. Nicole, yes.
I just wanted to let people know I am leaving the committee at the end of town meeting, which
is in April, right?
Which would include my 3 years plus.
Well, thank you very much.
I know I sent you information and Elizabeth, but I just wanted to make sure everyone else knew as well.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for telling us, and thank you for being part of it.
And so if anybody has any candidates they might be interested in filling the vacant seats, they know
Yeah, I think we have 2 vacancies.
Yeah. And John might be leaving too.
Yeah, I think John is done. Exactly. Okay, well then I am going to adjourn. So good night, everyone. It's 9:08.